Hey guys, Jan here, codingwithjan.com. Today I show you how to get an API access token for a Shopify store in case you want to connect any third-party software that requires one. Shopify no longer displays these tokens on their developer dashboard, so we will break it down step by step, and you will also learn a little bit about app authentication. And if you want to become a paid Shopify developer, join our bootcamp, links in the description. Alright, so then as a first step, we need to register a new app on our developer dashboard. And if you're not sure how to get there, you can just start in the admin area of your store and then click on your profile right here and then go to Dev Dashboard. Once you're here, let's click on Create App. And this is not too technical. This is really just registering our app. So we need to tell Shopify the name, what kind of permissions we need, who do we trust using this connection. So let's just go ahead and fill this out. The app name can be something arbitrary. I would usually make it descriptive. So if you're connecting a third-party software, then name it after the software. In my case, I'll just go with my custom app 123, create. Then let's see what else we find here. App URL. This is the URL that people get redirected to after they successfully install the app. And in our case, we could leave it on example.com because we don't really have an install flow or onboarding flow or anything. But to show you how this could look in production, let's change this to localhost/new install. New-install. Then I can show you that a little bit better in 1 second. Here we can decide whether we're building an embedded app or not. Embedded means it can be displayed right in the Shopify admin. If you've ever used a Shopify app, you've probably seen this. But for now, we don't need that. So we can uncheck this checkbox. API version, I would just leave it on the most recent. Access is interesting. So here we have to define the scopes, like what scopes or permissions does our app need, like what kind of data we need to access. And here you can just select the scopes from the list of all scopes. So here it really depends what kind of data you want to make available to this new access token that we're creating. Do you need access to all orders? Do you need access to, let's see what else we have. Read and writing companies, custom pixels, customers. Products must also be in here somewhere. So I'll just go with read and write products for now. Yeah, that's a pretty common one. And I would also try to make this as narrow as possible. So only check the ones that you actually need just to limit scope and make this a little more secure. So then the scopes get carried over right here. Optional scopes we don't need. And for redirect URLs, this is going to be important. This is another security layer. Who do we trust during the authentication flow? And for the sake of this demo, and you can use this too, let's just go with http://localhost. And that will also make more sense in a minute. And with that in place, we should already be good to go. So now we can release this version, or we can release this new record of our app. All right, cool. The app is now successfully created. And if we go to the settings tab right here for our app, you can also see that we now got a client ID and a secret from Shopify. Now the client ID is really what it says it is, an ID to identify ourselves. So this is kind of like showing our passport and then saying, hey, I'm app1234, or our username if you want. But then anyone could say that, like anyone could say I'm app1234. So down below, we also have our secret password to prove that we really are who we say we are, because only we know the password. So username and password is probably the analogy that makes the most sense or is the easiest to comprehend. Okay, now in the next step, I want to install this app on the store we're working on, because now we have this app record, we have all the permissions that we need and so forth, but only if a store accepts all of that and really installs the app, we can get an access token for this specific store. So let's go back to home, and then I'll scroll down a bit until we see installs, and then install the app, and then I'll just select the store from my list here, Coding with Jan Dev, which is my development store. Here we should see Shopify's normal app install screen. It says, hey, this app hasn't been reviewed because it's not like a public app on the App Store that went through all the review processes, but we don't have to worry about this. This is our app name. And then down below, we also see all the permissions that we requested. So we want to view and edit store data, products. So now the merchant could decide whether they want this app or not. In our case, we want this. But there's one other interesting thing I want to show you, and that is the URL that we're currently on. So for easier readability, I copied this to Notepad, and the URL we're currently on is https://admin.shopify.com, then the store, coding with Jan Dev, so my development store, and then /app/grant, as in grant access. And yeah, here we have a unique ID, forget about that for now, but then we find the client ID. Yeah, so this is the ID of our app that I just showed you on the developer dashboard. So this is kind of like saying, hey, we have a new app that wants to have access. It's app 1234. And do you really want to accept all of this, right? So this is how Shopify composes the URLs. And now if we click install, the next interesting thing happens. We get redirected to a page that we can't reach because I don't have a server running or anything. But if we take a look at the URL behind this blank page here, you can see that we got redirected to localhost/new install, which is exactly what we specified when we created our new app. We said, hey, if someone successfully installs this app, we want to get redirected to this URL right here. And then Shopify adds a bunch of parameters for us, which contains information about the install. Yeah, so this AJAX here is basically just to verify that this actually comes from Shopify. Host we can also ignore for now. But here Shopify tells us, hey, this shop here, coding with Jan Dev, just successfully installed our app. Also gives us a timestamp. And on our server, we could now trigger the welcome emails. We could now do the authentication flow. We could show them the onboarding screen or whatever we want to do if someone successfully installs the app, right? So this is like how it would work in production with a real app. Okay, so far so good. Now the app is successfully installed on the store, or at least the store accepted all the permissions. And now we can work on getting an access token. In order to do this, we need to start the authentication flow. And let me get rid of everything in here, because now we need to construct a new URL that we need to visit manually. And here it makes sense to first construct this into a notepad or like some text editor for you as well, because then it's easier to adjust this. So let me just show you what we need right here. So the first part here is just the My Shopify URL of my store. So in my case, it's coding with jandev.myshopify.com. In your case, it's whatever your shop is called. Then we have /admin/OAuth/authorize. And then at the end, you want to add a question mark. This is how we tell the browser that we have additional parameters that we want to pass along. And then first, we want to add the client ID. So this is the ID of our app. You have to copy it from the developer dashboard. So my app ID was 375 something. I'll copy this from here and then paste it right here. And then after this, we want to add a second parameter. So now we have to use an ampersand. Like for all the following parameters, we have to use this character and question mark just for the very first one. And this one is going to be the redirect_URI. Yeah, so this is not an L, this is an I. Equals to whatever you've whitelisted before. Yeah, remember after we've added our scopes, we whitelisted this redirect URL here. And in our case, we just set it to localhost or whatever you've entered here. So let's copy this from here and paste it right here. And before we move on, let's quickly recap this. So what we're basically saying here is on our store, we want to start the OAuth authorization process. I'm app 1234, like identify ourselves. And if this is successful, like this first step here, then I want to get redirected to this location, which we've whitelisted in our app registration. And then before we paste this into the browser, let's also get rid of all the line breaks. I just added these for better readability, but it might just confuse the browser. So now I'll copy everything from here and then just paste this into a new browser window, hit enter. And now it takes a second before we get redirected, but we won't see anything again. Yeah, the site can't be reached. But I'll copy everything from the URL again. And then I'll just paste it down below and break it down as we did before. All right, so now Shopify redirected us to the URL that we specified right here and that we whitelisted earlier. And then we also get a few parameters back. AJAX to sign this request, yeah, to make sure that it's actually Shopify. Host we can ignore again. This is the shop, coding with Jan Dev, so our server would know, like, hey, for which shop is this authentication process here? And the only thing relevant for us right now is this code right here, this authorization code. And this is not the access token yet, because the access token needs to be kept very secret, right? There's a lot of power behind that because you can access like all the store's private data, sensitive data. So it would be bad if the access token would be right here, because then it would be logged in your browser history and it could be extracted from like malicious hackers and whatnot. So this is just the code, but we now just have to make one additional post request and exchange this code here for the actual access token. Now, in order to make this post request, you need a developer tool, and I'll be using Postman, which is pretty much industry standard. You also don't have to pay for it or anything. You can just use the free version. Your Google account takes like 1 minute to set up, but you could also use any other. Once you have your tool of choice, this is what the dashboard looks in Postman, for example. You want to create a new HTTP request. And this HTTP request is going to be of type post. And again, Shopify provides a very specific endpoint to request the access token that we need to post against. So this is going to be the my Shopify URL of my store, and then /admin /OAuth /access token, access_token. And by the way, I'm also not making all these URLs up. You can like find them all in the documentation. I will put some links in the description. But yeah, then we also need to add some additional parameters again. And this time we can do it down below here in a structured way. So first we need to add our client ID, our app ID. Yeah, for me it was 375 something. We've copied this from the developer dashboard before. Then we also need to add the client secret. So this is the first time we actually have to prove that we say who we are. I mean, previously we had the whitelisted redirect URL, which is also a security layer. But this time we need to say, hey, I'm app1234, and this is going to be my private password, the client secret. So I need to copy this from the developer dashboard, my app secret right here. And then I'll paste this right here. And yeah, by the way, needless to say, like, don't be like me and broadcast your client secrets and API keys and whatnot on YouTube. Terrible idea. But yeah, paste it right here. And then the last thing we need is a parameter called code. And this is going to be the authorization code that we got in the first step of this whole OAuth flow. So this is what we received right here from Shopify. And also noteworthy, this code here is short-lived. It only lives for a couple minutes. So if it took you a while to install Postman, or in my case now where it took a bit to explain everything, it might already be expired. So in that case, I would just simply paste this right here again into the browser, and then it's extracted. Basically just do a refresh. I'll see if this works now, and otherwise I'll have to refresh this as well. So I'll add my authorization code right here. And now I have all the parameters that I need. My app name, my app username, my app password, and this authorization code that I just got from Shopify. And now I will send this post request. All right, so in the response, I can now see OAuth error invalid request. So I'm pretty sure my access code already expired. So I'll use this right here to quickly grab a new access code and then paste it into Postman. So I'll replace this with the new code that I received. And now let me try to send this again. And this time we do get a positive response. And this is the access token for our store. And you can also see the scopes here, write products. Earlier we checked read and write products. But if you have write products, it always implies also reading. Awesome. And this access token, as I mentioned, is extremely powerful. It has all these scopes right here. So please don't use this to write stupid products into my store. I'm going to delete this app right after. Yeah, and never expose this publicly. Keep it private and only use it for the services intended. All right, and that's it for this one. I can imagine this is like a lot to take in if you're new to all of this. But at the end of the day, what have we really done? We've registered a new app. Then we've installed this app on the store so that the store owner can like review the permissions and whatnot, the access scopes pretty much. And then we've already started the authorization flow. Like, hey, we're app 1234. We would like to request an access token. So if this is possible, then send us to the whitelisted redirect URL. And then we got the authorization code from Shopify. and exchange this authorization code for the actual access token. So I really did my best here to break it down step by step, explain everything as we go. You can also rewatch certain sections. And if you got a question, then yeah, just leave it in the comments. And if Shopify development interests you, keep an eye on our bootcamp. I would love to work together. And then I just hope you learned something new and wish you an amazing rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next.